Pod Street is an official affiliate of Birdland Sports. Visit birdlandsports.com/upodstreet and 10% of your order will go directly to supporting the pod. Use code UPODSTREET at checkout and you'll get 10% taken off your order. Now sit back, relax, and keep that beer cold because it's on to UPod Street. What is up, Birdland? My name is Jimmy Horn, and joining me, as always, is the brunette Thor himself, Jack Bain. Jack, how was your weekend?
Weekend was good. Took in a little country music on Friday night in Richmond, Virginia. Richmond, Virginia, horrible place to travel to. 2 hours and 45 minutes, no traffic. Took about 4 hours, 15 minutes both ways. Pitiful stuff.
So was it just the traffic was your bad time in Richmond?
Oh, yeah, traffic. Great concert. Saw Flatland Cavalry, Texas country band. Really good concert. Yeah, outside of the traffic, man, it was great. Great weekend overall. Took in some Sunday night baseball last night. Yard was jumping. I've never been more excited at an Orioles game in my life. And that was because I've never been to any playoff games. So that was kind of a playoff atmosphere yesterday, and it was a good time. It's a good time.
Yeah, no, definitely. I was at two of the games, which we're going to get into here in a little bit, but it was overall just a wonderful weekend for Baltimore baseball. I think the final tally had something like between the three games, 114,000 people attended the games, which
Nice.
was the most for a series in Baltimore since 2014. I like Dan Connolly, by the way, calling out everyone that said nobody goes to the games because crime in Baltimore is so bad. Basically putting that rumor to rest because at the end of the day, if there's a product on the field, Baltimore is going to show up. So really great weekend. Obviously, we have a lot of stuff to talk about. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like we have a whole lot of stuff to talk about for the Orioles right now. But, Jack, you do have some big updates from around the league because the trade deadline is tomorrow and some teams are making moves. So, Jack, why don't you go ahead and get into our notes from around the league?
Yeah, for sure. So, this is going to be in place of a standings update, which really haven't changed a whole lot since we talked last week. Everything's kind of still the same as far as who's leading in all the divisions and as well as the wild card. But yeah, man, it's been a busy week for general managers making calls. Honestly, it kind of started with the Fuji trade. That was 11 days ago at this point. But following that, the next big trade was the Blue Jays acquiring Genesis Cabrera from the Cardinals. However, Cabrera was DFA'd. It's there's still a bit of name recognition there. He was good for a long time, for a couple of years before it kind of had a down year this year. But yeah, nevertheless, and then the Braves kick things off at the start of this week, acquiring Pierce Johnson from the Colorado Rockies. Pierce Johnson had a really good start to the year this year. He's been consistent all year for the Rockies. Whenever you're coming out of the pen and can pitch well at Coors Field, that kind of tells you, that you're going to be serviceable anywhere you go, really, even if it's just for 1 year.
Give up home runs.
Right. So I like that pickup for the Braves for sure. The Rockies have been churning out guys out of their bullpen pretty much all year. And then next day, next big name to go was Kike Hernandez going from the Red Sox to the Dodgers. Yeah, he's going home. Like the deal for the Dodgers, it's fine. They've had some trouble in the middle infield, just finding somebody to be consistent there. Not that Hernandez is a great fielder by any means, but definitely more versatile with the bat than what they were running out there before Miguel Rojas.
Did you see the video of him dancing in the Dodgers dugout
Yeah.
his first game back.
Yeah, he's
He
happy to be
seemed
back,
happy.
man. Yeah. I mean, he really I was kind of surprised that he left LA, to be honest. I mean, he was kind of like an LA guy for a long time over there. So glad he's back. Yeah. And then a couple days later, kind of, I wouldn't call it a head scratcher, but it was like, oh, what's going on here? The Marlins acquired Jorge Lopez, for Dylan Floro. Just one for one, no cash. The Marlins will pay the rest of Lopez's contract, and the Twins will pay the rest of Floro's. So it's like, it was just a reliever swap there. Um, Lopez has been pretty good since he came back from the IL after dealing with that anxiety issue. Floro's been good all year for the Marlins. I think that Lopez has probably got better stuff than Floro. Um, I would say it's an equal outcome trade for both teams. Both big change of scenery candidates there. So hopefully Jorge can do well in Miami. I think that's a good fit for him. And glad to hear that he's doing better after that IL stint for sure.
Oh yeah, I think everyone in Baltimore is rooting for Jorge Lopez's success. He was such a likable guy here. He had such a great story with his kid and the health problems he's had with his
Yeah,
kid, and nobody was excited to see him go this time last year. Um, but obviously the moves that happen are looking like a Mike Elias masterclass. But regardless of how well it turns out on our end, I think everybody is rooting for Jorge Lopez.
for sure, for sure. Next big trade was the first big starter to go to a different team. Lucas Giolito and Ronaldo Lopez were acquired by the Angels for Kai Bush and Edgar Cuero. I don't know anything about Cuero, to be honest, but I do know that Kai Bush is an arm going to Chicago that has a ton of upside. I think he's currently in Double right now. But yeah, he just wasn't getting a lot of play in LA. So now that Chicago is sold, he will have a lot of opportunities there. Giolito in his first start with the Angels did not win. He kind of got blew up by the Blue Jays. We'll see how he does next time around.
I think that happens a lot though. I think one of the thing about like getting pitchers, oh my, Bo Bichette just got thrown out trying to extend a single into a double, and it looks like he just blew out his knee.
Ooh, really?
Yeah. So for those of you that are listening on a recording, a podcast, we're recording in the middle of the Monday night game here against the Blue Jays. Yeah, Bo Bichette rounding first to go to second on what probably
Ooh.
should have been a double. Um, just came up limping halfway between the bases,
Ooh.
and looks like he's in a lot of pain. Hasn't even been able to get off the field yet. So might be
Jeez.
giving you some breaking news here.
Wow. That sucks, man. Never want to see anybody get injured, especially a talent like that.
No.
Um,
But what I
next,
was saying, sorry, got distracted there. What I was saying is with these pitcher trades, I think it's so easy for teams to get caught up in, like, you trade for a big pitcher and you expect them to come in right away and do what they've done all season. It's kind of like what we talked about the other week with Fujinami,
yeah,
where he had a couple rough outings right in the beginning, and I think the biggest thing with pitchers is getting to know them, getting to know their stuff, getting comfortable with them, getting a good like catcher pitcher relationship, knowing what to call, where to place the ball. Because I mean, like as a catcher, you're having to remember that for your whole staff, right? So your whole starting rotation, your whole bullpen, um, and then a new guy comes in, and you haven't been studying his stuff all year, so you're having to learn each other. So I think those big blowups happen in these pitcher trades a lot, but I don't read too much into it because I think, you give them one or two more games and then they're kind of they all understand each other and they start to flow a little bit. So
yeah, I definitely hear that. Just with Giolito, man, like he's been pretty inconsistent all year. He's rocking a high threes ERA. Like, yeah, I get that the market was not big for starting pitchers this year,
mhm.
but man, like I kind of saw this one coming. Like I don't think he's going to be very good for them. Glad the Angels are like pushing the chips in on this year, trying to keep Shohei around, but like thought it was kind of foreseeable, to be honest.
Here's what's interesting to me about the Angels, and I know you have more trades you're getting to with them because it seems like almost every other trade that I see, the Angels are trading for someone. And they
Mm-hmm.
said they're not trading Otani. They're going for it this year. It almost seems like they're making so many trades that they're going to go for it with like an entirely different team, which is wild to me.
Yeah, I
Just like
mean,
middle of the season, just being like, you know what, get rid of everybody except for
right.
Otani and Trout, and then like bring in an entirely new team to go for it.
Yeah, I mean, like, just like staying on the topic, this was today actually. They made the move for Randall Grichuk and CJ Cron in exchange for a couple of minor leaguers. A couple of minor leaguers I know nothing about, so I know that they're not like top 100 guys. Yeah, I mean Grichuk will stick well in a corner for them, and then CJ Cron, another power bat, like playing first base, who like they had trouble filling this year. So I mean, like, they made a lot of like under the radar moves, no like superstars or anything. So we'll see how it plays out for them. I mean, this is going to be a big lineup shake for them. I mean, they added another, I would say like a 3 or a 4 to their rotation, and then a couple like sluggers and plus glove guys to kind of balance out the rest of that lineup. So yeah, and then they're going to get Trout back too, man, like in mid-September when they start trying to make that push. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Um, Cardinals continued the fire sale. On the same day, they dealt Jordan Montgomery and Chris Stratton to the Rangers for a bunch of minor leaguers. Still don't know much about these guys. But Jaymont, that was kind of on my top of the list for the O's to get. So that was a tough one to see come off the board. Jaymont's been consistent this year, low threes. Been a good starter, kind of been the only good starter for the Cardinals this year. So, and if you thought that was it, the Rangers also acquired Max Scherzer for Luis Angel Acuna, brother of Ronald. I think that this is a really good trade deadline for the Rangers, man. I mean, they're putting their money where their mouth is. They're in it this year. Sucks to see Acuna go from that system for the Rangers, but they get 2 years of Scherzer, who opted into his player option already for 2024 with the Rangers. Acuna is a stupidly toolsy shortstop who's going to be a stud. Honestly, with the Mets in the spot they are now, that's a really good trade for them as well. Because I mean, obviously this year's a wash, and next year ain't looking much better. So to get a guy like this for an aging Max Scherzer, I love the trade for both teams.
No, I think the Rangers are proving that they're all in. That this
Yeah.
is what they're going for. They want the World Series this year, hardcore. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, a trade for a guy like Max Scherzer says it all. Um, I think you're absolutely right what you said about it for being for both teams, because the Mets, who kind of before the season started went all in, and then it fell flat on their face.
Yep.
They kind of have to restart, but also like not entirely because of all these guys that they put a ton of money towards. Like
Right.
they're not in a total rebuild mode, because it's like, well, this shouldn't have happened, yet it did. So to get a guy like Acuna, um, I think that helps them for next year. I think that could put them in a very good position for next year, where they should be good again, but now they're trying to something a little different and that sort of thing. And I mean, imagine this: Scherzer, and then when is DeGrom supposed to be back? Would he be back
Next
like
year.
this time next year? Um,
I mean, he had TJ,
yeah,
so he's probably
probably about
looking
a
at
year.
like June
Yeah.
of 2024, June or July.
So I mean, like, think of a rotation with DeGrom and Scherzer in it. I mean, that right there.
Yeah, and
Plus,
they
they
have
already got.
enough. They have enough other guys to like make it work, like to make a good 5-man rotation. I mean, you got Evaldi who's having a
Mhm.
great year. Martin Perez is not as good as he was last year, but he's still a serviceable starter. And he pieced together that last spot. I mean, they got a good rotation, man. Can you
They got a
imagine if
good
they had
rotation, and
Degrom,
it's only going to get better when DeGrom's back. I mean, like, that's the
dude?
thing, is like, that's kind of a scary 5-headed monster almost.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure after all these deals, like their odds to win the World Series go up a lot. Like I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I would imagine.
And I mean,
Um,
they're kind of, and we'll get into the Orioles in a bit, but like they're kind of in the same position as the Orioles. They're at the top of their division. They're second behind the Orioles as far as in the AL in general. But
Yeah.
they're kind of fighting off Houston still. So
Mm-hmm.
they're in a position where they're already in first, and they're trying to solidify their position in first.
Yeah. Last like big, like I wouldn't say blockbuster, but last big move, Dodgers acquired Lance Lynn and Joe Kelly for Trace Thompson and a pair of minor leaguers. The Dodgers have a loaded farm system, and they traded from a big surplus of pitching prospects that they have to get two major league ready guys to help a rotation that's kind of been scuffling this year. Julio Urias been really bad this year. Kershaw's hurt. Walker Bueller's been out all year. Dustin May's out again. So, they really needed a guy who's been around the block a time or two. And they got Lance Lynn. I'm glad the Orioles did not trade for Lance Lynn, but good for the Dodgers. He struck out 18 like a couple weeks ago. So, like, there's your ceiling on Lance Lynn. And then the basement's like 8 earned. So, I mean, we'll see how it works out for them. But, like, the Dodgers aren't hurting after this trade in the farm, man. They're so loaded down there.
Yeah, like I said this on the show before. The frustrating thing about the Dodgers is that they're always good at the major league level, and then their farm system ranking is always really high. They've just got a really good loaded farm system, and it doesn't seem to ever get depleted.
Mm-hmm.
Which is good for them, but it's kind of really frustrating to look at. Like, no, you're
Yeah.
really good at the major league level. Shouldn't your farm system not be that good? So
Yeah.
yeah, they're a scary monster out west there.
Yeah, no doubt. Looking at our in-division opponents, Toronto acquired Jordan Hicks for a pair of minor leaguers from the Cardinals. Jordan Hicks is good, man. Like, throws hard. He doesn't know where it's going, and he never has. So, like, it's good for the Blue Jays bullpen. We'll see how it works out if he can find that control. But, like, whenever you throw 100, 101, like, consistently, like, and the Blue Jays already have a pretty good bullpen. So it's a good addition.
Yeah, I was curious that they went for a relief pitcher because they were even saying it on the broadcast before we got on live. The biggest problem for the Blue Jays, honestly, has been their offense.
Yeah.
They were talking about Alejandro Kirk, like, has been not good this year and things like that. I'm surprised they went for more pitching, which, I mean, don't get me wrong, pitching's always in demand this time of year. But I was surprised they went that direction instead of going for more bats.
Yeah, I mean, like, home run numbers are down for them, but like who are you going to take out of that lineup? It's a pretty loaded lineup. Like, those are their guys. Like, Vlad's having a down year. Bo Bichette is having a great year, but like he just went down. So like maybe like in these last couple of hours of the deadline, they might go out and get another bat. Can't count them out. And then the Rays made a deal today, getting Aaron Savali from the Guardians for Kyle Manzardo, who is ranked 38th on the MLB pipeline rankings, one behind Kerstad. So, like, you think about like what the market is this year, and I mean, obviously, pipeline rankings, take them with a grain of salt. But yeah, man, like it's a pretty steep prospect for Savali. It's going to be a good move for the Rays, man. You can throw him in the Tampa lab down there, and he'll churn out a low threes for the rest of the year. Good trade for the Rays. I don't know. I'm kind of happy that the Orioles didn't give up. I would say the equivalent to Manzardo is probably like, I don't want to say Kerstad. Kerstad's better than him.
But per the pipeline rankings, it would be Kerstad, theoretically. I mean,
you look at like Kerstad's numbers this year as opposed to Manzardo's in triple.
Yeah, his are just better.
Yeah, like far and away, like 100 average points better.
well, Kerstad's also one of those guys. I think when the new updated pipeline rankings come out, whenever that is, that'll probably be like later this month or whatever. I think Kerstad's going to continue to like make big jumps because I think he went to 38 when he was at like 50 something, and like he started the year for like most of the pipeline rankings. He was in like either the 90s or he was like just off the 100s. And now he's 37. I think we could see in the next ranking he moves up to like 15 or something like that. Like he's just not slowing down.
And pipeline rankings are weird, man. Like there's like you look at some of them. Honestly, I didn't think that Jackson Holiday was going to be number one prospect in the game when
He
they
talk
released
about
their
someone else that
list.
hasn't slowed down. Have you seen his AA Bowie numbers?
And he's been raking.
Yeah, it had what, like 14 games in AA Bowie. If not even that, I mean, granted it might be a small sample size, but he's batting like 391 in AA.
Dude rakes.
It's insane.
And then like the last big one that actually happened a couple hours ago was Arizona making their first bigger move of the deadline after they were said to be checking in on Otani. They acquired Paul Sewald for Josh Rojas and a pair of prospects. Signs point to say that this was kind of an underpay for Sewald, the way that he's been pitching this year and last. So good move for the D-back. Glad to see they're trying to stay in it.
Well, especially if they're fighting with the Dodgers and trying to take control of that division, they're going to have to make some sort of move.
Yeah, I still think they need one more like big move.
Yeah. Well, speaking of teams that need one more big move, let's get into the Baltimore Orioles. We're not going to go into the trade talk just yet. We got to review the week, and then we'll go into the trade talks because I think it's important to look at what this team's doing and before we talk about the trade deadline with them. So let's go back to last week, all the way back to last Monday, where or was it Tuesday? Was that a Tuesday game? Did we have a Monday off?
This is Monday.
Monday game. Yeah, so Monday against the Philadelphia Phillies, which started with a Dean Kremer masterclass where he would go 7 innings pitched, 3 hits, 1 run, 2 walks, only 3 Ks, but Dean Kremer has never been a big strikeout guy. But really great outing for him. Dean is seemingly getting more and more comfortable every week, I feel like, Jack. Really solidifying his presence in this Orioles rotation. Really excited for that because I'm a big Dean Kremer fan. So I'm glad that he is looking really good in this Orioles rotation. We did have a Jordan Westburg home run in this game, the first of his career, as well as a Ryan Mountcastle, which I believe was the first one since he came off the IL with vertigo. Absolutely crushed ball down into the center field there at Philadelphia into the vines on the batter's eye.
451.
That is crushed. And then the Orioles bullpen, which has been struggling. The middle part has been struggling all year. Danny Colomb blows a 2-1 lead in the 8th inning, only to then set up in the top of the 9th. Colton Cowser would be the hero, hitting an RBI double, putting the O's up 3-2. And then of all people, Jack, with Felix Bautista having pitched 3 of the 4 games in Tampa Bay, with Cano having pitched 3 of the 4 games in Tampa Bay, both of them not available in this game. Wouldn't you know it, Cionel Perez comes in and gets the save, and the Orioles win 3-2.
Yeah, I mean, he tried to make it a little interesting. I walked the guy and gave up a hit, but hey, he locked it down. He was hyped coming off the mound too, man.
Oh, I love a hype Cionel Perez. I love seeing him explode with emotion. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Then comes game 2 the next night. Kyle Gibson comes out with a pretty decent outing. 6 innings pitched, 4 hits, 2 runs, 5 strikeouts. Kind of back and forth the whole game. After the Phillies tied it at 2 in the 8th, your hero and mine, Ryan O'Hearn, hits a solo shot in the 8th inning in order to put the Orioles up 3-2. We also in this game got 2 excellent innings out of Fujinami, where he didn't allow a hit. I think he struck out like 4 guys in that. Struck out 3. Really looked really good. Showed exactly why it is the Orioles went out and got him. This was his 3rd outing with the Orioles, and I think he really saw like, okay, this is what Mike Elias saw. This is what he was hoping for, because Fujinami put on a clinic in those 2 innings. set it up for Cano to come in and get the save. They were still resting Felix Bautista after that series in Tampa Bay. And Yannier Cano would end up blowing the save. The Orioles lose 4-3. Of note in that blown save, there was a play where a ball was hit hard to shortstop where Jorge Mateo had come in after Gunnar Henderson left with some lower back soreness. And then Jorge Mateo had trouble in the exchange and throwing to first and was beat out at first, which then set up the game to be blown. Jack, thoughts on Jorge Mateo?
Yeah, whatever. So I just wanted to touch on Fujinami again. Dude, he's shoving. He's shoving. He's throwing 100 wherever he wants it. I'm glad that he's settled in. Big acquisition for the Orioles here. But yeah, just like Cano didn't pitch good, so it's hard to put that whole thing on Mateo. Yeah, would have got us out of the inning. Yeah, send it to extras. Okay. But like at the end of the day, like Cano didn't pitch very well. He hasn't been pitching well recently. So yeah, as much as I would love to put that on Mateo, like Cano really didn't pitch well for his 5th blown save of the year.
No, I agree with that. It's mostly on Cano. Your defensive replacements need to help you out, though. But you're right; it is mostly on Cano. One other thing on Fujinami, did you see his press conference that he had, or the
Nah.
quote from the reporters? The reporters asked him after this outing how he felt, and through his interpreter, he basically said that after his first 2 outings in Tampa Bay didn't go the way that he wanted them to. He got a lot of support from this Orioles bullpen where guys were coming up to him and telling him, dude, you are nasty.
Yeah.
Just trust in yourself, trust in your stuff, and you're going to be good. And he said that gave him a lot of the confidence that he needed to go out and pitch really well, which is something I really love about this Orioles team. They all have each other's back. They all are working together. Really showed the camaraderie on this team. And here's someone new, someone who, when he first showed up, said, hey, I'm nervous. Like there's a lot more eyes on me here than there was in Oakland, and I'm really nervous right now. And the bullpen stepped up to give him the support that he needed to get the confidence that that he could pitch as well as he can.
Yeah, no doubt.
So just a really cool story there. Yeah, the loss was disappointing, but there are some good things to see in that game.
Yeah, for sure.
And then we get to Wednesday night. Kyle Bradish looked a little rough in this one. Ended up going 6 2/3, which was a nice long outing, but he gave up 7 hits, 5 runs, 2 walks, and had 3 strikeouts. This was after the Orioles went up initially 3-0 with an Adley Rutschman 3-run home run. But Philadelphia would answer right back with 2 innings that had 2 runs in each one, so they were up 4-3. Austin Hayes did tie it in the 7th. But then between Bradish and Perez in the bottom of the 7th, they would end up giving up 2 runs. And that ended up being the difference. So Phillies would go on in this game to win 6-4, meaning that they took 2 out of 3 in the series in Philadelphia.
Yeah, I mean, it's disappointing. You know, you lose the series to, I wouldn't say a rival, but I feel like anytime you play a Philly team, you want to beat them. And
what are you trying to say here? I'm an Eagles fan. What are you trying to say here?
Come on.
Okay.
Come on, Jimmy.
All right. I'm an Eagles fan.
Yeah. Go Birds.
Whatever. Go Birds.
Whatever.
But yeah, no, I think it did feel like a playoff atmosphere, though. All those games looked like they were pretty much sold out. So you really wanted to stand up to the occasion, like you were saying.
Yeah, O's travel well too,
especially to Philadelphia, not far away.
Yeah, it sucks, but like the Orioles never were up. I mean, yeah, they were up. Excuse me. They didn't never held the lead. Like they got up and then they just kind of gave it away. And you know, pitchers don't look sharp. That's fine. Usually the offense gets around it, but this one, we just didn't have it.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing with this series kind of showed where Brandon Hyde's priorities were, because that series before with Tampa Bay, he went all in. I
Yeah.
mean, I didn't expect Felix to pitch as much as he did in Tampa Bay. When they brought Felix out for that last game in Tampa Bay, I was like, wow, he's pitched a lot already. I didn't expect him to come out in that. And then you had to rest him for the entire Philadelphia series. But Brandon Hyde's priorities were clearly we need the season series against Tampa Bay. We're competing against Tampa Bay for the division. If I have to give up a series against Philadelphia to win this series against Tampa Bay, I'm willing to do that. And I don't besmirch him for that. I think that was the right decision to make. Yeah, we could have walked out of there winning 2 out of 3. We almost did walk out of there winning 2 out of 3. But if you had to ask me, Jimmy, do you want to win the series against Tampa Bay or do you want to win the series against Philadelphia? I was going to pick the series against Tampa Bay.
Yeah, no doubt. Especially 4-game one too.
Right, exactly.
And you didn't get swept. You took the first one. So
yeah, yet another series where the Orioles haven't been swept. Same with the next series after that. So that is now 73 straight series where the Orioles have not been swept, still have not been swept in the Adley Rutschman era. And we knew that from the get-go with this Yankee series because we won game 1. Jack, I was at game 1. And let me tell you, there was a lot of devotion to be at game 1 when the fires of Mount Doom released a smoke cloud over the stadium that made it look like doomsday.
Yeah.
To then have a massive storm hit, and we got a 2.5-hour rain delay.
What's crazy is that
1.
this was one of the Orioles' quickest games of the season.
Yeah, quickest game, one of the quickest games of the season, and it didn't end until after midnight.
Game time was 2.5 hours.
Yeah, well, and the reason why it was 2.5 hours was because both pitchers were dealing. Both Garrett Cole and Grayson Rodriguez. No one let up a run. The thing is, until the 9th inning, not a single batter had made it to third base. No one had made it to third base on either side.
Yeah, I mean, 4 hits for each team in the game. Garrett Cole looked great. Grayson looked really good. That's an awesome thing to see that Grayson pitched so well. If
Grayson pitched the way that the Orioles have expected him to pitch this whole time, honestly.
Yeah, and I mean, he didn't go crazy deep. He went 6 1/3, walked 2 guys, but he pitched good, man. It's awesome. It's great to see.
He had a lot of confidence in that. He had a lot of confidence in that. That's what I noticed is him on the mound. He just never looked rattled. Even when a guy or two would get on base, he never looked rattled.
Yeah, facing the Yankees, Garrett Cole on the opposing side. I mean, yeah, left it all out there. Fuji looked good. Cano looked good. Colomb looked good. Felix looked good. Everybody looked good except for, at the plate, what are you going to do? It's Garrett Cole. Just pitching kept him in it, and then Santander.
I have to tell this story, Jack. I have to tell the story of Santander's home run because we're sitting there in the 9th inning. It is now 12:30 at night. All right. And I'm sitting there with our buddy Seth, who came to the game with me. I have to work the next day. And I'm like, dude, I'm pretty tired. I got to work tomorrow. I don't want, I don't think I can do extra innings because it looked at that point like, okay, this is going to go into extras and just whoever scores first is going to win. And as we're saying this, as we're discussing this, there's 2 Yankee fans next to us who have been kind of talking to us throughout the game.
Yeah.
And the 2 guys lean over to us when Santander comes up to bat because, we cheer him on. We're like, all right, let's go, Tony Taters. Let's go. And they lean over to us. They're like, what is the story? What's the origin of Tony Taters? Why do you guys call him that? And we look at them and we go, because he hits taters. Literally go. One pitch after we say that, he hits a home run.
It was a majestic home run.
Majestic home run. No doubter home run. What did you get? Did you get the distance on that? I never saw the distance on that because it was one of those that looked like if it had been over the flag court, it would have been onto Utah Street. But because it was more right center, it was to the back row of the seats.
425.
425. So probably not to Utah Street, but it was a long ball.
Oh yeah, that was a tank.
Absolutely epic. Great way to start the series, even if it was super late at night. Who doesn't love dongs after dark, right?
Hey, and Aaron Judge can't hit a home run in his return if you walk him every at bat.
I'll say I wasn't watching on TV, so I didn't have a great look at the strike zone. There was a couple times when he walked, when you looked at it, you're like, "Are you sure there wasn't a strike? You
Are you
sure about
sure
that?"
about that? Are you
But
sure about that?
you sure about that? You sure about? Anyways, um, but then we get to game two, and Jack, what is wrong with Tyler Wells?
Um, I mean, where do you start, right? Like, I
Well,
mean,
let's look at the
every
numbers because this was his third outing. And you said to me last week after he had two rough outings coming back from the All-Star game, so this is his third outing since the All-Star game. You said give him one more start at home, and if he doesn't do well, then we have to be worried. Well, Jack, he went 2 2/3 innings, gave up 3 hits, 3 runs, 3 walks, only got 1 strikeout, and he had 2 home runs that he gave up.
it's like in the first half, right? Like he could put the pitch wherever he wanted it. He was able to locate everything. Guys weren't on it, like, and he gets up in a count, right? He goes 1-2, 0-2, and he walks him. Like all of this following pitches after he's up in the count are all non-competitive pitches, and that's it's just not going to work, especially against like the teams that he's played against. He faced the Dodgers, right? The
Mm-hmm.
Rays, and
Mm-hmm.
now the Yankees. Like you can do that against the A's and kind of get by, or the Royals, but even
Right.
then, like these are still pro hitters. You have to be some like some form of competitive when you're attacking these hitters, right? They're pros. Like they're not gonna swing at a changeup that you yank 2 feet out of the zone. Like that was the one thing that I saw watching this game on Saturday was like he just couldn't find it.
And yeah, it was really tough because he's been locating so well all season. Um, I think it's pretty clear to you. I think it's pretty clear to me that he is gassed.
Yeah,
He has pitched the most innings that he's pitched his entire career. Um, and I think he's exhausted. I think he's just tired.
yeah,
Now that being said, he was interviewed afterwards and he said, "No, I don't feel tired. I don't feel exhausted. Like, um, I'll just figure it out." But I think you have to say that, right? I think you, as a player, you
yeah,
have to say that. You can't admit like, "Oh yeah, I'm tired."
yeah. No, I
Um,
mean, and then to build off that, right? He gets option to double to Bowie.
mhm.
Keep him close to the stadium, I guess. I mean, he's got to wait a little bit before he can come up. Um, but yeah, I think it'd be a good time to like figure it out. And I'm glad that he got sent down. Do I
Mhm.
wish that that move also corresponded with the trade to get another arm instead of bringing Joey Crable back up? Maybe, maybe. But give him some really, really low impact starts, or even get him
Yeah.
out of the pen and Bowie. Just like give him an inning or two, just keep him loose.
I
Um,
think the move to Bowie, like you said, keep him close.
yeah,
He doesn't have to move out of his apartment in Baltimore, right?
right.
Um, keep him close, work on some mechanical stuff. I think this is his transition to the bullpen. I think
Hmm.
he's gonna go out, do a couple bullpen starts so that he can get loosened up and prepared for how he wants to prepare as a
Yeah,
bullpen pitcher, which I think is a smart move. If he's gassed, if he's because he can throw hard. We've seen him pitch out of the bullpen before. He's a great bullpen arm when he can give it his all for 1 or 2 innings instead of having to try and extend it for 7 innings.
right.
Um, I say keep him in the bullpen for the rest of this year, and then come next year, give him another chance to get into the rotation. I think that's fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah, I think the quick trigger on this move though was kind of like Elias learning his lesson on Grayson,
Yeah.
and where they let Grayson just go out and get shelled every fifth
Hmm.
day. When like in the first half of the year, like they're not going to let that happen with Wells. And obviously, it is a different situation. We're 2 months after the fact. Um, Wells has got a lot more innings, but I think that they understood like the severity of the situation and were quick to put him down in the minors before they just let him go out there every fifth day, get his confidence down even lower. So I think a move to double never feels good for the confidence, but I think this is what's best.
Yeah. And I'm sure they had that conversation with him, like, hey, we're moving you to double A because we don't want you to have to go all the way down to Norfolk. You know,
Right.
we're going to bring you back up as soon as we can, but in this time, this is what we want you to work on.
Yeah.
Right. The rest of that game was not great for Orioles pitching as well. Mike Baumann pitched 1 in the 3rd innings, gave up 3 hits and a run. Cole Irvin, who I was super supportive of being in the pen as a long reliever, he only went an inning and a third where he gave up 5 hits, 4 runs, 1 walk, a strikeout, and a home run. All in all, was just not a good outing for our pitching in general.
Tefesino
Kind of what
Perez.
you were saying. Orioles kept getting 2 strikes on the Yankees, and then they couldn't seem to throw a strike anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just that's kind of been the story, right? Like if we lose a game, it's because our pitchers weren't competitive.
Right. What was rough about this one, Jack? I don't know if you were watching this one. I was watching it. It was on a Fox broadcast, so it was a national broadcast. And Saturday night sounded like Yankee Stadium. It was a sold-out crowd. And I think when the Yankees went up 8-3, I turned it off because I was tired of hearing "Let's go Yankee" chants.
Yeah, I mean, like you kind of saw that last night, and like Yankees fans are trying to do it, man. But like this is the segue into yesterday's game. When you put up 7 runs in the first inning, even that'll shut up Yankees fans, man.
Oh my God, 7 runs in the first inning, the first 6 of which came with no outs.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, we were both in attendance. I was in the flag court, and like I said earlier in the pod, like one of the most electric atmospheres I've ever like been a part of at Oriole Park. Like I'm talking like people were jumping around, like high fiving people they don't know, which is usual, but like it just felt different. The whole thing just felt different, right? You think about that home run from Frazier, right? His 13th of the year.
His career high, which, as I point out, they always post when he hits a home run, like, "Oh, this is a new career high." Well, when he hit the 11th home run, that was a career high. So every home run from here to the end of the season is a new career high.
Right. Yeah, dude, it was just electric, and I mean, it was outside of the first inning. Honestly, I didn't think it was that great of a game. Right.
It was what it was.
Yeah, it was fine. Like it was a win. A win's fun to watch.
It was one of those. The Yankees were never in it. They did end up scoring 3 runs, but in the middle of them scoring 3 runs, the Orioles scored 2 more. It was honestly just a great crowd atmosphere to be in because people were excited. People were not letting the Yankees take over the game. How many Yankees sucks chants did we hear go around the stadium?
Lot, man.
There was a lot. So on ESPN, on national TV, we got in a bigger market. We ended up getting some Yankees sucks chants instead of "Let's go Yankees" chants.
Yeah, man.
I'll tell you, all the Yankee fans around me, for the most part, were pretty quiet, and a lot of them left about the 7th inning, which was just awesome.
Yeah, I mean, the flag court can be a rowdy area, and I mean, like the Orioles fans were letting them have it. Awesome.
I was I was up in the cheap seats. I was first base side, upper deck, and that can get pretty rowdy too. And I mean, I had some college age kids behind me who we were all high fiving every time we were scoring and stuff like that. But there was a family of Yankee fans in front of us. Oh, they were relentless to these guys. Every time the Yankees did anything, they just went, "Hey, I'm walking here, New York, hey." And every time they did it, I was like, this is gonna be annoying. I'm gonna hate this,
bro.
But then every time they did it, I laughed. It was hilarious.
I'm gonna be honest.
Every time I was like, this is not gonna be funny anymore. And then it was.
I'm walking here.
Let
me get a dollar slice.
Yeah. And I felt a little bad for the kids, but here's my thing, Jack. I have so many memories of being a kid in Camden Yards at Yankees games where Yankee fans are giving it to me for being an Orioles fan in Camden Yards.
Yeah.
That I was like, I feel no empathy. I feel no sympathy for you because we've been crapped on by this entire fan base, this entire organization for years. And finally the opportunity to give it back to them. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I posted something that a lot of people like. The really annoying thing, the most Yankee fans thing ever was in that moment where James McCann got hit by a pitch, and we all are booing. The father in that Yankees family tapped his son, who was probably like 11 years old, tapped on him and said, cheer for him being hit, and let's root for Adley to get hit next.
Jesus.
And I was just like, that's a Yankee fan thing right there, teaching them young for bad sportsmanship. You best
All right,
believe I let the dad have it after that.
So like, I was gonna say, like, if there's kids, like, I don't think I would chirp like kids, right?
I wasn't chirping
line.
at the kids. I was chirping at the dad.
Yeah, no doubt. But like, yeah, when Yankees fans do stuff like that, it's like, come on.
Because my thing is, the dad should know better. The dad should know better, and you shouldn't teach your kids that bad sportsmanship.
Yeah.
So that's the stuff I started saying to them was like, hey, at least we don't root for players to get hurt,
Yeah, and Adley was 3 for 4.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bullpen looked really good.
Oh, yeah. Fujinami came in. Great outing from Fuji.
5 innings of work. I mean, they struck out 11, let up 2 hits, 1 walk, and that was from Fuji.
The Orioles pitchers in total, by the way, struck out 18, which was a franchise record.
Mm-hmm.
You only get 27 outs, Jack. 18 of those Yankee outs were strikeouts.
Yeah, and what's crazy is that Dean only went 4, right? But he struck 7 out. If he could have kept that pitch count a little lower.
Anthony Rizzo, platinum sombrero, 0 for 5 with 5 strikeouts.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I didn't peep that. Oh, my God.
Yep. Also, I was annoyed. When Anthony Rizzo, on his 4th strikeout, he got called out looking, and he was up in the ump's face. And I was like, if he was wearing orange, he'd be thrown out of the game.
You think?
Oh, absolutely. He was arguing with him for a solid 2 or 3 minutes, yelling at him. Didn't move out of the batter's box. Did not move out of the batter's box and just yelled at the ump. If he was wearing orange, he'd be thrown out. But because he had New York across the chest, they gave him another chance. And I'm glad they did, so we could see him strike out again.
I guess. I don't know. That's maybe. I don't know. So like this whole time that we've been going over the games and we went over the other team's trades, I've been hoping that I'm gonna get this like Twitter notification.
You're gonna get a trade alert?
Yeah, I'm gonna get like that Twitter notification, right? That says breaking. The Orioles are finalizing a deal for whoever. Haven't manifested that quite yet. But yeah, I mean, the Orioles haven't done anything, and we're coming up on the wire here. And
I think Jack, because there are 2 schools of thought right here, right? There's the school of thought of like, well, you're already first in the division. Your team's already playing well with what you got. Why do you want to change things? And that's something to be said that, yeah, up to this point, the Orioles have played really well. Do you want to disrupt team chemistry and things like that? But the counter side of that is, as we talked about at the start of the show, everyone else that's in contention is making themselves better right now. So even though you've done well up to this point, now everybody else is getting better. That does not mean you are going to continue to succeed for the rest of the season and into the playoffs.
Yeah, and I think you just look at our rotation. You look at that kind of rotation, that I'm not confident in that rotation to win a playoff series, man. I'm confident for that rotation to get us there and like keep up the consistency that they've had all year. But if you play a best of 5 series against the Astros, like
I don't have confidence.
That'd be a game 1 matchup of Framber versus probably Gibson, honestly.
Yeah, probably. Kyle Gibson, who barely pitched in the postseason last year for the Phillies because he was the 5th rotation starter for the Phillies.
Yeah.
right? Um, I think we're set up for something here, Jack. With because the trade deadline is tomorrow at 6 p.m. To be fair, Mike Elias last year did not trade away Jorge Lopez and Trey Mancini until the last day of the trade deadline, right?
Yeah.
I think we are set up for either Mike Elias does nothing and says, I like the guys that we have,
Or it's a big.
or it's going to be something huge.
But who's left for it to be huge, right? We know
Well,
Otani is not moving. White Sox
yeah.
are pretty dead set on not moving Cease.
I saw
Scherzer's
I saw
moved.
I saw a different thing on Cease today though. I think they're
Yeah.
going back and forth on Cease.
I mean, they blew everything else up. Why keep him?
Right. Yeah, why are you going to
So,
keep him for 2
yeah.
years where he's not going to have anybody around him?
Right. So I feel like the biggest options now, you're looking at Verlander. It's a shit ton of money on that contract.
43 million.
Yeah. Cease, Eduardo Rodriguez. And I mean, it's a short list after that.
Snell and
They're not
Hader.
going to move Snell. I don't think they're going to move Snell.
Well, here's the thing I think that has hurt Elias is when you look at a lot of the trades that have happened as where prospects have been involved, people have been comparing the trades and comparing the prospects and it's hard to compare prospects that people trade because people are like, oh, well, this was this team's number 28 prospect. So by comparison for the Orioles, it would be this guy. It's not quite a 1v1 scenario like that. You don't know that that's what teams would have asked for from the Orioles.
Yeah.
Especially because a lot of the Orioles prospects are better than a lot of other teams' prospects.
Right.
I think the hardest thing for Mike Elias is because there is so much press coverage on the Orioles farm system because we have consistently 8 guys that are in the top 100. Other teams know what we have very easily. And I think the asking price from the Orioles is a lot higher than what they might be asking from other teams because let's face it, if you're running a store and a guy comes in and announces, "Hey, I have $100,000 in my pocket right now." Are you going to charge him for something for like, well, yeah, this is only worth $25, so why don't you just pay $25 for it? Or are you going to bump up that price because he has a lot more money than that? And that's what I think might be happening on those phone conversations of like, oh, I know you got good prospects, so I'm going to start demanding higher and higher for guys that might not be worth what I'm asking.
Yeah, and like the market being the way it is too, like asking prices on all these guys are way, way up.
Yeah.
So
I will say, what you mentioned about the Justin Verlander, how that's a lot of money to eat up.
dude, that's so much money. We could get like I got a very serviceable like 2 starter for a couple years for that much.
The Orioles did free up $100 million from that Masson dispute finally ending. Just something to think about. Now that being said, you'd spend almost all of it at once.
Would Verlander be a rental? Do you know off the top of your head?
I think he has another year. I think he has a contract similar to Scherzer where he has a opt out at the end of the year.
$86 million guaranteed.
Yeah. Now, granted, you're not paying all 86 million because he's already this far into the season.
So he's this year, next year, and then he's got a vested option for 2025.
Okay. I if John Angelos is willing to shell out the money, I would love Verlander on my rotation. I think that's a great veteran presence for a team made up of young guys. And is Verlander the guy that he was 5 years ago? Not really. I mean, even last year, he's not the same guy he was last year. But I think he's better than Kyle Gibson. I think he's better than Cole Irvin.
I think
he's better than Tyler Wells. I think he's better than Dean Kremer. I think he's better than Kyle Bradish.
He would make the team better, but it's like I don't know.
The veteran presence of like, hey, I've won World Series before.
Yeah, you still got to give up prospects too on top. Maybe if the Mets, because they have been looking to get rid of a lot of salary
Yeah,
after their like I think they're paying a good amount of Scherzers.
cash
Um,
considerations
yeah,
added
dude,
onto it.
if they would send some money with Verlander,
Yeah,
and if all Scherzer took was one big prospect, I mean we might be able to get Verlander like 1-1 for Kerstad, which I'd be
I
cool
could
with.
see that. Or Norby. I could see Norby
Yeah,
being 1-1 for Verlander.
yeah, I think
Um,
I don't know who carries more value because they're both really good arms and they're both kind of
it.
having similar seasons.
I think it would come down to the Mets' needs, and I don't know the Mets well enough to know do they need an infielder versus an outfielder.
I mean, I think they need more outfield help for sure.
So probably
Um,
Kerstad then.
yeah, and I could see it going 1-1.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you do a Kerstad and maybe I don't know top 30 pitcher, and maybe you get
Yeah,
some cash on top of it too.
yeah. I mean, I'd
Don't
do
hate it.
that. I'm not saying that's going to happen. You know, I think the Orioles, if they're going to give up a big prospect, I could see them really working with the White Sox on Cease. Again,
That
it
would be
keeps
big
coming back and
prospects
forth.
plural.
Yeah, it's going to be back and forth because the White Sox keep saying like, oh, we're not going to trade him, but then you'll see another thing where it's like, well, they're listening on him, but just
Right.
because they're listening doesn't mean they're going to move on him. I think for Cease it would be multiple prospects. However, Cease has another 2 years on his contract after this year. And that's the biggest thing for me is that yes, you give up a couple prospects, but can you see some of these infield? Can you see Joey Ortiz on this team in 2 years, starting regularly at shortstop?
He's going off in triple right now, man.
He is. Now, granted, yeah, could he replace Jorge Mateo on this team right now? Absolutely, he could. Um,
Absolutely.
but do I feel like the Orioles are ready to make that move? I guess not. Maybe we'll see him after the trade deadline. But you have him who's an infielder. You have Connor Norby who's an infielder. You already brought Jordan Westberg up, who's an infielder. Gunner's not going anywhere. Another infielder. We have too many infielders on this team. So if you're willing to trade one of those, trade an infielder away, maybe another two top 30 prospects, right?
Yeah.
I think that would be a pretty good deal for Cease to have him for 2 years where I think he would be the best arm in our rotation based on the guys we have. I think he's better than every guy we have in the rotation right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, far and away.
And you'd have him for 2 years? Give me that deal. Let me sign that on the dial. Let me help those guys pack their bags and
Yeah.
send them to Chicago.
Yeah, I mean, and you're trading from your surplus, which a couple of those guys are going to be up for the Rule 5 coming up soon. And I mean, got to do something. You can't just let them go,
Right.
right? You got to trade while and give us a shot at the World Series, man. Like, when have we ever been able to say that? Give us a
Yeah.
shot.
Yeah, because that could be the
And
one missing piece that we need. I'll
yeah,
say, Jack, you were talking about, you're hoping that Wells was going to be option to go work in the minors while corresponding with a trade for a starter to help him.
right.
The Orioles have not named a starter for Game 4 in this series.
Yeah, Drew Rom got called up earlier in the year and didn't pitch. I
Yeah,
think that's a possibility. I wish Cade Povich was a month ahead of schedule because that would have been awesome.
I think it's because Elias is expecting to get someone. I
Yeah,
don't know who
maybe,
that someone is. I would love for it to be Blake Snell.
dude, that would be
I
really cool. I don't think they're gonna move him though.
I think they're going to move him, but I think I think they're willing to move him. I think it's just going to take a lot. And I don't know, is he on the last year of his contract or does he have a couple more years left?
I want to say that he's got a little bit of control after this year, because he signed for 5 years. I just don't remember when. Ooh, no, he's a free agent next year.
Okay, so he's a rental,
Yeah, I didn't
which
realize
means
that the
you could
contract.
theoretically get him for cheaper as a rental.
Mm-hmm.
but it also might mean that the Padres are asking for too much for him if you want to pay him as a rental. But he's another guy better than every single person on the rotation. I think gets us closer to the World Series.
Yeah.
And I said last week that if you get a starter, it's like getting two pitchers because you move someone to the bullpen. All right, we already know what the bullpen move is. It's Tyler Wells. Now we just need to have someone fill in. You need to have someone fill in that rotation. Brady Bain. I'm already picturing Justin Verlander in Orioles jersey. We know he looks good in orange. I'm just saying. I mean,
Yeah.
look, you have $100 million freed up from that Massing lawsuit finally ending. I would eat that $86 million. Let's do it. John Angelos, are you serious about winning? Prove it. Sign the lease. Pay Justin Verlander. Let's win a World Series.
Let's do it. Why not?
Something's got to happen. I like you said. I'm sitting here. I'm updating my Twitter or X. It's X now. X.
I still haven't updated it, man. I refuse.
I didn't choose to update the app. It did one of those automatic updates, and I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
But everything. Here's the weird thing about X right now. I guess is what it's called. I'm still gonna call it Twitter probably. Everything that you post, it's like post a tweet. Oh, look at your recent tweets and stuff
Right.
like that. So and so tweeted at you. All the language still says tweet, but now the logo is X. So they haven't like fully transferred over, I guess. Super weird. But I keep updating it, expecting like we're gonna get a trade any second now. I think part of it could be Mike Elias is playing his cards close to the chest, and he's trying to get the best deal he possibly can at the right at the last second of the trade deadline. Because I think probably some of these early deals they were just asking a lot of him, knowing that he had a lot of really good prospects. I mean, imagine if someone's asking him for like Jackson Holiday or something like that. He's hanging up that phone right away.
Do you think he is?
For Jackson Holiday?
You wouldn't even listen on Holiday?
Well, you'd have to give me Ohtani with a guarantee that Ohtani's going to sign for 5 more years.
Fair enough.
Because Jackson Holiday is going to probably make his MLB debut next year, and he's going to be on the team for 6 years after that. So do you want to trade away 7 years in the future?
But you wouldn't even listen.
I'd listen until you made me laugh. You'd have to give me a lot for Jackson Holiday. I know, like you talked about, like, oh, I don't like the idea of untouchables and stuff like that. Jackson Holiday is 19 years old and the number one prospect in all of baseball. He's untouchable to me. All right, Tim Ortel asked us, is there a World Series UPod Street and Orioles podcast shirt coming out? There is not a World Series UPod Street t-shirt. However, if you do go to birdlandsports.com, make sure you use the link birdlandsports.com/UPod Street because 10% will go to supporting the pod. They do have shirts that are 2023 World Series champions and 2024 World Series champions. I know they're moving a bunch of those off the site because they got in a little trouble with MLB marketing. But they're doing some World Series based t-shirts. So definitely check out birdlandsports.com/UPod Street. Use code UPod Street at checkout for 10% off your order.
Good. So here we are at the end of July.
Yeah.
What does August look like? We got finishing up the rest of this Blue Jays series.
I think it's important to note, too, that July, where you and I, at the start of July, Jack, we looked at July and said, wow, another gauntlet of a month.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll be interested to see what happens in this game right now. But the Orioles are 16-9 in the month of July, currently winning against the Blue Jays right now, 4-1. If the score were to hold, we would end July at 17-9. That'd
be awesome.
How do you feel about that, Jack?
That'd be really good. I mean, like, we were like, oh, this month's gonna be so hard, but dude, they stepped up to the plate, literally, man, and they showed that, like, this is real. We're the real deal. Great energy to ride into August. A lot of home games in August, man. I felt like they were away a lot in July. So they finish up in Toronto, and then they come home, play the Mets and the Astros. You know,
Astros, who are fighting for a wild card and possible division. That's going to be a tough series. 59-47 is what Houston's at right now.
yeah, it'll be a good series though.
Oh yeah, could
It'll
be a
be
possible playoff matchup.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I didn't even think about that. Good point.
Mm-hmm.
And you know the Mets never overlooked the Mets. They still got some guys. Got
They
them
have
for
DJ
3.
Stewart. Okay, watch out for DJ Stewart.
DJ Stewart,
He
Mets
knows
legend,
Camden Yards. He's coming back home. DJ
yeah,
Stewart revenge game. You watch it.
of course. Saturday, August 5th, is the 1983 World Series anniversary game. Eddie Murray bobblehead, so get your tickets. First 20,000 fans. Wow, that's a lot of bobbleheads.
A lot of bobbleheads.
After the Astros series, head to the West Coast, and that is one of our longer road trips of the season. Play the Mariners for 3, Padres for 3, and the Athletics for 3. I would say on that road trip, you gotta go like 7-2, 6-3.
Yeah, you're looking at Seattle, who seems like they are selling. They are 54-51. Not super far out of the wild card, but doesn't seem like they can get any momentum. Seems like they're pretty much selling at that point. San Diego, they have vastly underperformed, although they did just sweep the Rangers.
Did they?
And then Oakland hasn't even won 40 games yet. They are 30-77. You have to sweep that one. You have to sweep that one.
Yeah, and then last homestand of the month, pretty lengthy one. 3 Blue Jays, 3 against the Rockies, and 3 against the White Sox. Again, another one that feels like 6-3 should be the minimum there.
Yeah, you have to. So you have Toronto. You have to at least hopefully win that series. Make sure that you have the season series against Toronto. Colorado and Chicago, both teams that right now are in the low 40s as far as wins are concerned. Colorado selling off, Chicago selling off. Both those teams are basically giving up on their season. So you have to take a lot there. Of note, August 25th against the Colorado Rockies, Orioles wearable Maryland flag giveaway night.
I'll be there.
I will be there as well. I also, Jack, use my Birdland members points for that night to get a Mike Elias meet and greet.
Wow.
So depending what
you
happens
do like
in the
your
next,
meet and greets.
I do like my meet and greets. Depending what happens in the next 24 hours, I might have some difficult questions for Mike Elias.
Okay. I'm sure he will take them into consideration.
I'm sure he will. He'll be like, you know what, Jimmy? I want to hire you. And then I'll be done with you, Pod Street, because I'll be working for the Orioles. That's exactly what's going to happen. You wait. Just like that DJ Stewart revenge game.
Of course.
Real quick before we head out of here, we're a little over time, but I just wanted to share a really cool experience that I had this past week. So for those of you who don't know, Adam Jones, former captain of the Baltimore Orioles, center fielder, he has started his own podcast with support of the Baltimore Banner. And he did a live show at Baltimore Soundstage this past Thursday. Jack, I made a last-second decision to go to the live show. I think what motivated me is before when I looked at the general admission tickets, they were $30, and the day of they dropped down to $18.
Hell yeah.
So I decided, I'm not far from the Inner Harbor. I'd go ahead and get a ticket, go watch him. I think what was, from a professional standpoint, it was interesting watching the difference between a professionally made podcast versus us, a fan-made podcast.
Yeah.
Jerry, I forget the guy's last name, but the guy he does the podcast with is a former radio broadcaster.
Yeah, Coleman.
Jerry Coleman, that's right. So, someone who's very used to talking in that sort of setting. They're supported by the Baltimore Banner. So they have a lot of professional equipment and things like that. They had special guests. Aaron Hicks was a special guest. So just it is interesting to watch a professional product being made versus a fan-made product. And also just their perspectives are way different because we come at it from a fan perspective. Adam Jones, of course, comes at it from a former player perspective, and Jerry Coleman comes at it from a professional media member perspective. So it's just two different products. Not saying one's better than the other, but they're just two very different products. As far as a fan and being there, it's a really good podcast, by the way. If you guys are looking for more podcasts to listen to the Adam Jones podcast. It is very well done. As a fan being there, it was pretty neat. They did a Q&A beforehand. I asked the first question in the Q&A, Jack. I asked Adam Jones about that game in 2012 that I told you about that you said he didn't really remember because you were focused on being in middle school, which still blows my mind. I asked him about that, about how there was a great article that came out after that game where Adam Jones talked about that when he first arrived in Baltimore, he asked how loud Camden Yards would get, and this was in the midst of many losing seasons for the Orioles. And he was basically told, it doesn't get super loud here. We don't have a lot of fans here. And then in that game, which was a sold out crowd of mostly Orioles fans versus Yankees fans, he hit a go-ahead home run. Place blew up, and he was pulled aside right after he hit that home run and told, that's how loud this stadium can get. I asked him about that moment, and I kind of asked him, like, what would you tell the younger players who, as this team keeps getting better, they're going to start to hear that for the first time. And sure enough, this weekend, I'm sure they heard it. And he kind of talked about, he remembered that moment. He remembered Pedro Strop giving him a big hug because he bailed him out of a jam.
Pedro Strop.
But he basically talked about how for these young guys, his advice to them has been just sit back, take it in, enjoy the moment. Don't let it get to you. Don't let anything rattle you. It's going to be really exciting to hear how loud Camden Yards can get, but just take it one pitch at a time, one hit at a time, one play at a time. Just don't think too far ahead about what it's going to sound like. Just enjoy it when it happens, basically, which I thought was really good advice from him. Afterwards, I kind of ran up towards the stage because he was meandering around the stage, and I just wanted to introduce myself to him because he and I have interacted on Twitter a good bit. You've interacted with him as well. He's asked us questions, wanted to get our perspectives on Twitter. So just went up to him and said, hey, I'm from UPod Street. You interact with us a lot. I just wanted to introduce myself. And he's like, oh man, thanks for coming out. Super friendly moment, just of like, hey, I appreciate you coming out. This was a lot of fun. I want to do this again, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
What I didn't notice happen, Jack, was behind me, a line of people started forming. And I should note that there was tickets you could get for this to be in the Golden Circle that were like $230. And if you did that, you got a Adam Jones meet and greet beforehand.
Yeah.
Right. Well, Adam Jones, after I kind of moved off and there's this whole line of people that were behind me that had bats and balls and things like that.
Yeah.
He suddenly got down off the stage and he signed every single bat that was put in front of him. Nice. He signed every single ball that was put in front of him. He took every single photo that was requested of him. He talked with everybody that wanted to talk with him.
Yeah, that's awesome.
He could have, in that moment, been, well, if you guys wanted to meet with me, you should have bought tickets to the Golden Circle, right? He didn't do that.
Yeah.
He took a lot of time, and they were trying to push people out of there. They're like, hey, we're closing up. Everybody finish your drinks and go. Finish your drinks and go. He stayed around and talked with everyone. They even moved chairs to block people from getting in line anymore. After he got through the line, he went up to that line of chairs and started meeting with people on the other side of those chairs.
It's cool, man.
And I went up to him when he was at the chairs. I just said, hey, man, I didn't get a chance to get a picture with you before. Can we get a picture? He's like, yeah. And he was talking to me about how excited he was to be Mr. Splash at the Friday night game. He's like, I'm going to splash everyone, man. I'm so excited. Are you going to be there? I'm going to try and splash you. I was like, well, I'm not going to be in that section. He's like, I'm still going to try and splash you. Okay. Just super friendly moment. Afterwards, I was walking out. He kind of walked out behind me. I just said, hey, Adam, have a good night, as I was trying to get an Uber. And he was like, hey, you get home safe, man. I'm so glad you were here. All that stuff. Just really great moment from a really great guy. He and I talked on Twitter afterwards where he talked about how appreciative he was that I came out and that sort of thing.
Nice.
Just goes to show that he hasn't changed at all, how good of a person he is, how personable he can be.
Yeah.
And he really talked about, he just said, look, people pay good money to come see me, and I want to make sure they have a good time.
Yeah, man.
So,
Hopefully the Orioles start getting more involved too. I think like being Mr. Splash was a good first step, but he should be around the
absolutely.
team
He
more.
has not entered the Orioles Hall of Fame yet, right?
No.
No, I think that's
You
got to
think
be
he
next
will?
step. He's got to be an Orioles Hall of Famer. JJ Hardy's an Orioles Hall of Famer. If JJ
Good point.
Hardy's an Orioles Hall of Famer,
Good point.
Adam Jones, without a
Yes.
doubt, is an Orioles Hall of Famer.
Yes.
So that was just a really cool moment I wanted to share with you guys. If you have opportunities to go meet Adam Jones or any other Orioles events that happen around the city, take the time to do it. It can be super worth it.
Especially the caravan.
Yeah, I'm
next
super
winter.
excited for the caravan this next year.
Yeah.
That's going to bring us to the end of the show. Before we leave, we do have the business of who our weekly baseball card giveaway winner is. This week's winner is Jim Hayes, aka at Big Jimbo Extreme. I love that tagline, Big Jimbo Extreme.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add another apology for how long it took those first couple winners to get their cards. Totally on me. I apologize, and I hope that they're there now.
All right. Remember that every week when we tweet out the or X out, I'm still going to say tweet out.
Say tweet, please.
Yeah, when we tweet out the recording for each week's episode, all you have to do is be a follower of UPod Street on Twitter, like and retweet the post, and you are automatically entered to win free packs of baseball cards. That's all you have to do. Every week we're picking a new winner. If you don't win one week, guess what? You might win the next week. So certainly do that. We got some free baseball cards at the game last night. I was pretty excited about that.
Free YouTube, folks. I already put them in a sleeve.
Oh, there you go.
There you go.
I got a Gunnar Henderson right here. I've got a Adley Rutschman in there. I got a Felix Bautista.
Nice.
Yeah,
that was
all
cool.
Orioles,
and they're good looking cards too. Like usually those giveaways are just kind of
Yeah, they're like the holographic cards. They're pretty nice. Jack, you have anything to add before we head out?
No, everybody have a good week, man. Before it starts raining this weekend.
Yeah, I'm just hoping that Mike Elias was awoken by our discussion.
Yes.
And that between now and 6 o'clock tomorrow, we're suddenly going to get a big breaking news moment. All right. Well, everyone have a good week. Let's go O's, and we'll talk to you on Sunday.
Thanks for watching, everybody.
Yeah. You've been listening to UPod Street, an Orioles podcast by fans for fans. UPod Street is an official Birdland Sports affiliate. Directly support the pod by purchasing UPod Street or other Orioles merchandise using the link birdlandsports.com/UPod Street. Get 10% off your order when you use the code UPod Street. Follow us on Twitter at UPod Street and at JackBain20. UPod Street is also on Facebook and YouTube, and you can listen to the show on all major podcast platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and Spotify. On whatever platform you listen, please subscribe, rate the pod, and leave a review. If you leave a review, we may even read it on the show. We'll see you next week, and of course, let's go O's.